So we increased the revenue, just by having 200 $700 a month apartments, and we increased it 4%. That's an extra $67,000 a year just in free cash flow.
Just in income. And not really for doing anything besides just keeping up with inflation on the market.
Right.
And so then you just take, what does that equal in value? Well, you just take what...
Because somebody's going to buy that income on,
on a cap rate.
Right.
And so apartments are hot, and most apartments are selling at around a 6 cap in this market. Newer ones lower, really old ones maybe slightly higher. And so that times 0.06 to put it at a 6 cap value is $1.1 million.
Wow.
And so you have your 200 unit apartment complex increased in value $1.1 million if you got 4% rent growth in that year. That's 1 year.
What is up? And welcome back to How to Invest in Commercial Real Estate. Today is all about the power of rent growth. So unlike a traditional home or something like that, where the value is appreciating based off the inherent value of the real estate, a lot of commercial real estate is bought not off the value of the real estate at all, but off the value of the income and the income that property produces. And that's what we're going to be explaining today, is how that can appreciate and how you're going to make money off of it. Yeah,
I'm excited to talk about it because I think most people, they think commercial real estate is really complicated, and they're like, how am I going to make money at this? And what they're doing is they're evaluating to what the income is that it's producing today,
right,
and getting those numbers. And I don't think people appreciate the power of building in rent growth to your model. And so we're just going to kind of mention some examples today and let people know kind of what they're missing out on if they're not considering the rent growth.
Yeah, and that's a fundamental point in real estate modeling, is you've got to forecast not only what the property is doing, what it did before you bought it, what it's going to do after you bought it. You're probably going to hold it for 5, 7, 10 years, and you shouldn't be assuming that the income is going to stay flat or go down. You should probably be saying, hey, this is a desirable piece of real estate. People are eventually going to pay more for it over a period of time. And what does that actually do to your returns? I mean, most people don't even think about it, so they can't even fathom what it could do. But it could be the difference of millions of dollars by without even thinking about it.
So let's give an example, because if you're in real estate, you're going to already know about the power of rent growth, and you're going to have a model that takes all that into account. So we're not really speaking to you. We're speaking to people that want to get into it, and we want to show them how powerful it is with things they haven't thought about before.
So let's start with an example. You got an apartment complex.
Yeah. So let's take a 200 unit apartment complex in a market like Tulsa.
Right.
And let's just say that the rents are $700 a month. Workforce housing, affordable, middle of the road deal.
Yeah.
And let's say the apartment market is pretty hot right now, and we expect inflation to be in rent growth to be on the higher side, and it certainly is in markets like Austin and Phoenix and others.
They're probably getting way more than.
Let's just say we were able to achieve a 4% increase.
Okay.
That's high, but it's not out of the question. So 4% increase on a $700 a month. $700 times 12 is $8,400. Take that times 4%, it's $336 a year in rent growth per apartment.
Right.
Okay, so then you take that times your 200 units, and
that's like 67,000.
67,000, and then I'm going to take that on a 6 cap, because right now apartments are...
Well, hold on. So we increased the revenue, just by having 200 $700 a month apartments, and we increased it 4%. That's an extra $67,000 a year just in free cash flow.
Just in income. And not really for doing anything besides just keeping up with inflation on the market.
Right.
And so then you just take, what does that equal in value? Well, you just take what...
Because somebody's going to buy that income on,
on a cap rate.
Right.
And so apartments are hot, and most apartments are selling at around a 6 cap in this market. Newer ones lower, really old ones maybe slightly higher. And so that times 0.06 to put it at a 6 cap value is $1.1 million.
Wow.
And so you have your 200 unit apartment complex increased in value $1.1 million if you got 4% rent growth in that year. That's 1 year.
It's 1 year.
That's another example of when we talk to people about who are doing rent houses, right? Here you're multiplying that increase by 200 instead of, okay, you've got 5 or 6 rent houses. And the other thing is, if your rent house goes up, let's say over a course of 5 or 6 years or 10 years, it goes up 20%. Well, you're selling that house at 20% more.
Right.
Here, your net operating income is on a multiplier, right? Or, a cap rate, right? Which is essentially a multiplier. So you're multiplying that increase in income by this cap rate. So so the value is going way up, not just the extra inflationary increase in your home that you were renting and eventually sell.
Yeah, every dollar of income on a 6 cap in that example
huge difference.
is worth $16 in value. So somebody's going to pay me $16 for every $1 in revenue I make that business make.
Right.
So you can think by taking this $700 apartment and just increasing it $20 or $30 a month, right? You're going to hit that 4% mark pretty easy. The tenant is going to say $20 or $30 a month. That's nothing. I'm going to have to go move out, find a new apartment, put a deposit down, utilities, everything like that. Most of your multifamily tenants are just going to take that if it's kind of in line. If they can't go get a comparable apartment, drastically cheaper for the same price. Most people are just going to stay and just renew. And
even 3%, I did the math while you guys were talking, it's $840,000 in value. Now,
1 year.
In just 1 year, and that's at 3%. So what I'd like to say is, okay, let's think about it in terms of what is the return on equity or the return on value. I mean, $1 million, but how much did it cost me?
Yeah.
Even if we took a 200-unit apartment complex times $50,000 a unit, which is about what you might pay for something that rents for $700, now you're at a $10 million apartment complex, and you may have $2 million down on that. Mm-hmm. And so you can see how strong the numbers are. If you are able to grow those rents by 4% a year, that's a 50% return on your down payment in year one. And I'm going to say, honestly, I have failed to buy multifamily that I should have purchased because I wasn't taking into account rent growth. And maybe because we were coming out of the recession when I bought my first multifamily, so I was building in much more conservative numbers, which was keeping me from paying a little bit more to get these deals. And now all the values are skyrocketing. Inflation's taking hold. And rents going up, and people are seeing the value of their property shoot up through the roof. So,
yeah, it's a game of modeling. These people are coming in and buying thousands of doors or tens of thousands of doors. They may be able to do it strictly off of appreciation, like what we're saying. They may not be cash flowing at all, right? Because maybe instead of just annual rent growth that they get for free, they have to put in a new washer and dryer package or some sort of new windows throughout the property, a new roof, all the wood rot. They have to put some money in before they realize that income growth, right? But you can still justify it. You can 100% still justify it.
And many models will take that into account where they use CapEx to improve the property to justify rent growth, not driven by inflation, but driven by improvements.
Right.
Nicer appliances, remodeling of the units. And there you may be saying, well, it's going to cost me $1 million to renovate this, but I'm not going to get $28 in rent increases. I'm going to get $75. I'm going to go from $700 to $775 in rent. And you can see that would be maybe $3 million. So you spent $1 million to get $3 million.
Right.
So that's how these models kind of work.
So when you're doing the modeling, I've seen some of these models. Don't they when you project IRRs and that sort of thing out in the future, aren't you putting in some sort of rent growth in these models?
Absolutely. You have to be. Multifamily today, like Joel said, it's extremely competitive. It's 100% a modeling game. Whoever can model the best and make the most, the best assumptions and be comfortable with that risk is going to win that deal because they can say, I feel confident about the appreciation, so I don't really care what the cash flow is going to be like the next couple of years. I know that rent growth is going to compound. I know that we're going to buy an asset that's going to appreciate, and then that's where they're making their money. It's 100% seems like an appreciation game.
So when you think about it, when you run a model on a retail center, some of those leases are pretty long, right? So you can't model in as quickly on the rent growth as you could a multifamily, because most multifamilies are anywhere from 6 to 12 months, and that's about it, right?
Yeah,
so you can.
point.
That's a great point.
And so some retail, like we put in 3% compounding annual rent growth in most all of our leases.
Yeah.
But others may have different kind of schedules of increases. So maybe they have an increase every 3 years or 10% increase in 5 years.
Right.
So how I model, I'll put all those actual values in. And then if I can't increase the rent for 4 years till their lease renews, I'm definitely putting in a bump, a decent sized bump when they do renew.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we had a retail example as well. Take a multi-tenant shopping center, and the revenue may be $700,000. And so what I did was I took 4% a year, or maybe I took 3% a year on the retail, maybe a little less, and I compounded that for 5 years and got the income to $800,000. And so then I had $100,000 of increased NOI over that period, and then I took it at an 8 cap, and that was also $1 million.
Right.
So not as aggressive as the multifamily, but if you can think about it, well, I just buy this building, and I just manage it and let my rents go up, and I'm $1 million richer in 4 years, 5 years. Most people aren't thinking about that. They're not appreciating how much just little rent increases over time really add to the value of your property.
Well, and are there other ways to increase the NOI? I mean, other than the increasing the lease rates, because there's really not, right? I mean, the only other way is to cut costs, and you're just so much you can do there, right?
It's way easier to make more money than spend less, from what I found. But yeah, I mean, it's make more, spend less. That gets your NOI. So it's really just rent growth.
Yeah,
I mean, whether you're getting that through CapEx or just market, people moving in and it becoming more of a demand, you've got to get the rent growth for sure.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, I'll just give one last example. We've talked about it a little bit before, but especially on retail, you may find that you're under market, and there also is apartments that are under market. An apartment deal that would be under market is someone that developed the property 30 years ago. It's been in the family. They haven't renovated it, and so their basis in the property is super low, and they're just comfortable with whatever the rents are and keeping tenants and not forcing them to move out because they're scared if we ask for too much, people will move out. And they're just comfortable.
Yeah,
that's a great opportunity to say, hey, these could be $100 under market.
Same thing with just, I mean, the same apartment, right? But one's got a washer and dryer package and one doesn't. Me personally, I'm going to pay at least, probably $100 extra a month just for the washer and dryer, so I don't have to go to a laundromat and wash it. So if you find an apartment complex and it has everything, checks all the boxes, it just doesn't have a washer and dryer. If you can figure out how to do that, it's probably $3,000, $4,000 for a washer and dryer set, and you can get it $100 a unit. There was, apartment complexes all over the country that were renovated to have washer and dryers in them because somebody figured it out in a model and it worked on tons of assets anywhere in the country. You could just go in and say, I know what to do here. I figured this out.
Yeah, $100 a month for a renovated unit with a washer and dryer, $1,200 a year. If it costs you $3,000 or $3,500 to make the upgrades, you're getting 35% on your money. So that's great.
Yeah, the two biggest things from my perspective when you're exiting or assuming an exit in a model is what are you doing with your income? How's it growing or not growing, or what vacancy or whatever? And then what cap rate or value of that income are you using? So a lot of the times you want to see the cap rate stay very close to your original cap rate. You want to consider the income going out almost the same value as the income you bought it, because that's
or a slightly higher exit cap.
Correct.
Because the thinking is if you buy a newer retail deal at a 7 cap, and let's say that during that time you could have bought an older retail deal for an 8 cap. Within 10 years from now, when you sell it, it'll be older. You should put 7.5, 7 3/4, 8 cap on that exit income.
Correct. So your biggest variable is your net operating income. That's what you have to play with. That's what you have to increase. And yeah, you can go in and separate that out between income and expenses. But generally speaking, that NOI needs to be going up every year, and that's what's driving the appreciation at the back end.
When you said the person with the best model wins the deal, and that's true.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that the model was right. It means he wins the deal.
Correct.
And so right now what we have is whoever's been the most aggressive has won ultimately because the market has followed all of their assumptions.
Yes.
The people that were more aggressive in their underwriting bought the deal, but then the market actually performed, and so they are now getting paid for being more aggressive. And there'll be times when you're going into a down cycle where the aggressive ones will get caught. And the conservative ones will be more right, but
yeah, it's the Warren Buffett quote I like. You find out who's swimming naked when the tide goes out. It's 100% the thing with multifamily modeling, because all of these multifamily prices were driven up like crazy, and you're really going to see who over leveraged the crap out of themselves and over modeled that income growth, and they're not going to have it, and it'll be interesting to see what we take back
until the downturn or until interest rates rise. Right now, I think we're going to still see a bunch of money flowing into commercial real estate. the trillions of dollars that have been pumped into the market will push inflation, which will drive rents up. So it's a good time to be an owner of commercial real estate. We'll just see how long this cycle lasts.
Anyway, I think that is a really good point. People have to be focused on the annual rent growth. It's something easy to just like, oh, I'll just renew this lease for another year. Oh, I'll just keep them month to month. But that is probably your most profitable activity as a property owner, is what you're doing in the lease renewals. I mean,
and that may be the motivator that causes you to buy the property, is if you've really realized what that rent increases are going to do for your value. And it may motivate you to say, okay, I'm going to buy this because I know what it's going to do in the future.
Yeah. Anyway, hopefully it helped. Make sure to like and subscribe and share. Check us out on the interweb. We're on howtoinvestincre.com, and we'll catch you next week. Thanks, guys.